Good evening, everybody. How's everybody tonight? Another Monday night with bees all day. We have Brian in here, Jonathan, Mike from Vermont, Russell. How are you this evening? Roy, Eugene, Sarah's in here. So we got a few to start off with. How are you tonight, James? You were in here at first. So I'm glad to see everybody coming in. So there's Clay. Eddie, how's everybody tonight? There's Hope. How you doing, Hope? So it's been a pretty good week this week. The weather's been good. Been a little warm. We've had a few warm days, had some cool nights. But all in all, I think the weather's been pretty nice. So there's Peabody. How are you tonight? A little bit later, we'll get started with our topic. So there's Jeremy. Dodd House, how are you this evening? So, anybody get into bees over the weekend? Yeah, we were going to feed, but we didn't make it this weekend. So, we'll be doing it this week, one evening. So, it's been a busy weekend for me. Been very busy. So, with the store and a couple other things going on, and it's just been busy. Hey, Kathy, how are you? Where's your sidekick JT at? Is he not in here yet? Oh, there's Mr. Charlie. He's hiding in the wings.
Yep.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Charlie.
Yeah, right. Hey,
Yeah.
Oh, my. So I heard you say you didn't get to feeding them.
Roy, I am sold out of multi-dose. I still have 2-dose packs. Hey, Judith, how are you? No, we didn't get to feed this weekend. We've been kind of running around with like chickens with our heads cut off this weekend. We had some things happen this weekend. We had to get it taken care of. So I'll tell you about it later.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Mike. Hope. Russell.
Yeah.
Hey, Dodd. Hey,
Mr.
Bill.
Lee, how are you tonight?
Yes, we were busy over the weekend and we worked straight through again.
Yeah. Mill work or baling hay?
Baling hay.
Ah.
I am
You
done.
had trouble.
We are done.
You're done.
Done for the year.
Well, I'm gonna send a low boy up to pick all that stuff up. And you can come down here and bale mine and take it back with you.
I thought you were quitting or quit that this year.
Yeah. Well, we got somebody that may want it. So
trying to get the weather right now is going to be a hard one.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, he cut. I guess it was the beginning of last week or this week, I guess it was.
Yep.
And he round baled the front field, which, was just more or less a cleaning up situation, which he's going to feed out to his own personal cows. And here's Wilbert.
There's the other legend.
And then we got a shower on this pasture field grass, but then it finally got dry and actually tested dry going through the baler.
Mm-hmm.
And then this stuff out field right behind me where my pickup is, just around the perimeter of the farm of buildings. To the touch, it was dry, but the meter says it was sort of wet. And I think my old meter on my old baler was just 2 buttons and the bale kind of pushed it on the outer edge. This new one's a star that actually goes inside the bale. And like my son said, he was raking up and probably pulling some green leafy stuff along with it. So
yep.
Anyway, we around here it was he wants to cut it down so he could re-drill it, and
Yeah.
so that's all why we did it. So I think he got, what was it?
Yeah.
Three bundles, 20, 40, 60 bales of hay or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't 60 square bales, small square.
Yeah.
Wasn't
I told the guy today that wants it, I said, look, I said, if you want it, you come cut it, rake it, cut it, bale it. I said, and leave me a receipt as to what you're doing, how much of it you want. Leave me a receipt for it, and it's yours. I said, because if I don't know something by Friday, come Saturday afternoon, it's going to get bush hogged down. So,
yeah. So
I called and made that order this morning, Will.
Oh, did you? How many you getting?
100 of them.
Okay. Yep, that's
50
what I
cents
got.
less than what you paid for them.
Did you beat it out of them? Well, you do
Yeah,
more
I did.
business. You do
I
more
beat 'em
business
up good.
than I do. Yeah, you buy a ton more than I do, so.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. No, unlikely. I'm not wearing your initials tonight.
Where's all my papers?
So, what'd you do this weekend, Will?
Oh, I made 120 trips in and out of my basement putting honey supers to bed for the winter. It was great. Not really.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah,
I
but you got
haven't
your
gotten-
steps in, right?
Yeah, I got plenty of steps in, so
There you go.
I got them all put away and got paramoth on them and have them all. You know, I think I have about 10 of them out here outside yet that need to get eaten out yet, dried out yet, eaten out yet, cleaned up from extracting. So
Yeah.
So you put the plate down and then stack so many supers in another
Yep.
plate with a shim or something.
Yep.
And are you using the stuff from Walgreens or actually a bucket of
No, I'm using paramoth. I got a 5-gallon bucket of it. And
Hey, Peter.
I'm putting a third of a cup in, every 3 or 4. Now it depends what it is. I have a bunch of it that needs drawn out yet. Then I have, so I kind of have 3 things. I have stuff that's just bare foundation or just barely drawn a little bit, and I don't worry so much about that. I have some that are, that I extracted in that never had any brood in them. I don't sweat those too much, but then I have some that have some, had some brood in them at one time or another, and those are the ones that I do every 3. I put a shim on, and I usually put newspaper and have them isolated and put a third of a cup of paramoth in it, and kind of do them up to town.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I'm worried about the moths in.
Well, I mean, it's like you're saying, you got 100 or more supers. It's more convenient for you to buy a 5-gallon bucket of that stuff or whatever it comes
Oh
in.
my God. Yeah.
And scoop it up and put it in
Third of
there.
a cup at a time, you know what I mean?
And scoop it up, put it in there, and you're done. And then you're also doing that repeatedly over a period of time.
Yep. My ones that I'm really worried about, I have 3 supers and I have a third of a cup of paramoth in them, and then I actually have newspaper on them, so I know that those are the ones that I want to open up and I want to put more paramoth on. But I'm getting real tired of all the steps in and out of the basement, so I haven't quite made a call yet, but I'm kind of settling in on a couple of sea containers with a roof in between them.
Yep. I figured the steps would make your decision for you.
Oh yeah, and I get a lot of steps.
Oh yeah.
I think what I'm going to do, I don't want to just set them on the gravel. I think I'm actually going to borrow my buddy's little track hoe, and I think I'm going to, I don't want to say dig in a foundation, but I'm going to dig down 3 feet and pour a little foundation. It'll all be level. I'm going to put put them in where the seed containers are going to sit, and I'm going to run them right through where the gravel area is going to be, and that way I can get everything level and, you know, kind of on the same plane. And
Yep.
I'll put about 4 of those little foundations in. I'll run them, you know, I think I want to be an 8-foot container on each side, and then I think I want 24 feet or 22 feet in the middle, and probably look at about a 40-foot truss or something like that, so I have a little overhang on either end, and just throw wood trusses up over top of it. But
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking right now. So
that doesn't sound like a bad idea.
yep, and I'm kind of purging and cleaning up and getting rid of stuff, and
Yep.
just tightening things up. It's time to start to tighten things up because, you know, it's going to be shitty weather soon. And
Yeah, you're right about that, and I don't think it's far off either.
yep. And I got feed on a bunch of them, and I'm putting more feed on them all the time. I'm getting ready to, I don't know if it'll happen this week, but I'm getting ready to start throwing buckets on everything that I can. I'm starting to get the right migratory lid squared away that I can bucket feed, and I'm hoping that's going to go pretty good. So
Yeah, I hope so. I hope your bucket feeding goes well.
yep, I got 1,500 pounds of syrup mixed up there, and or that I picked up from over at our Amish friends, and I'm going to put that on my traveling bees in a 2-gallon bucket and see how they take it.
There you go. Yep. So as soon as Charlie gets back here, we'll get started with the topic tonight.
Oh, boy.
So DC, you're in the same boat that I'm in. We're in a drought again here too.
Oh my God, we're terrible here. We're terrible.
Yep. It's dry. Ground's getting hard again. It's starting to crack open.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. All the grass is burned brown.
Yep.
Creek's real low.
Yep. Yeah, the river's down here. So, I hope everybody saw the topic for tonight. That I just want to send out my Facebook notifications today. So I'd sent that Facebook notification out earlier today, and I got an email back from, or a message back from Brian Zveda. He's in Michigan. And he sent me research that Washington State University has done. So
Who sent that?
Brian did from Michigan. It was pretty interesting read. So I'm going to put the link here in the comments.
What's his handle? Do you know?
I don't remember.
You talking about Flower Street, Brian?
No, it may have been Flower Street.
Colorado.
Okay, my mistake. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, Brian. So the PDF document, when I was reading through it, it's pretty extensive, and it's a very good representation of what we're going to talk about tonight. So it gives you a couple different ways to treat. One is the dribble with AP Bioxyl or EasyOx, and it goes through and tells you how to do it. And it tells you which products are registered with the EPA. They go through each one, the percentage of the oxalic acid dihydrate, it's in each one of them. And then they give you the importance of extended release oxalic acid option, which would be the Varoxan. And then there's a nice little chart on page 3. Apibioxal for vaporization was able to get their dosage increased to 4 grams here recently.
Yeah.
Easy Ox is still sitting at 2 grams. And the Varoxan is at 4 strips. It doesn't give you a dosage. It just gives you the number of strips per brood chamber. And they go into it and tell you how to do the Varoxan and
Right
how
on.
long it's got to stay on. 42 to 56 days in the colony. They stress wearing PPE, which we should all be wearing. And then they talk about resistance and the chemicals and treatments that the mites have developed a resistance to.
Junk.
Commonly used synthetic acaricides for Varroa
Yeah, I
control.
see a red low boy with a white car. There's 3 of them. Same.
Amitraz, fluvinate, flumethrin, organic compounds containing carbon, including formic acid, oxalic acid, thymol, hops. They use them to control. We all use those to control Varroa mite. There's a resistance built up to coumaphos, fluvinate, amitraz, which is apivar, and they developed the resistance because those chemicals were overused. Now I want you to think for a minute. If bacteria can develop a resistance to penicillin, why can't a Varroa mite develop a resistance to formic acid, thymol, and or oxalic acid? So it does state in here, although oxalic acid breaks down in the hive faster than these synthetic chemical treatments, if used repeatedly, mite populations may develop a resistance to it. So I don't know how many of you were in here when oxalic acid first came out to treat the bees. It came out as 1 gram. Then it went to 2 grams. Now we see by this chart, apibioxal with oxalic acid powder is at 4 grams. So why can't they develop a resistance to it? They can. And over time, they have started to develop that resistance. There is an upper limit to oxalic acid that we can use before we start getting a bee kill or a detrimental effect on the bees. Because if you overuse it, oxalic acid is detrimental to the larva, to the larval gut. They're going to be malnourished because they can't eat. And then eventually it's going to affect the adult bees if we use enough of it. That's where you'll see a bee kill. But I think long before then, the Varroa mite will have developed not a quote unquote DNA resistance, but a type of resistance that they react to protect themselves. So that was that paper. And I think that was a really good research paper put out by the University of Washington State. So if you get the chance, go to the link that I put in there, download it, and read through it. It was pretty interesting. Had a lot of good information in it. So, you know, it's just, I think they're thinking outside of the box. So it's something to think about. And I'm getting a feedback from somewhere. It's not me. Well, Brent, that's partly true, and it was partly true before. But with the new virus that has been discovered, that is vectored by the Varroa mite that contributed to the bee kill last year, now they're saying that any mites at all is too many mites in your hive. And that we need to really start considering how much we treat, when we treat, and what we treat with.
So I guess I'm not over treating after all.
No, you're not.
No, what I'm getting at is a lot of folks said, well, I'm using 3 different products.
Right.
At certain times. And a lot of folks, maybe they still think of, I mean, originally when we started all this Varroa stuff, when I started, it was like, well, you treat it one time a year.
Right.
And now it's multiple products, multiple times a year.
Right. And you do want to rotate your treatments. So it's DC, if you download that document, it tells you in there what's going on. And if you look at the dosage levels that have been increased, you'll see it. It's there in front of you.
I haven't read the document, but I mean, I'm going to say that the American EPA has screwed up because
yep.
When AO came about, the Europeans had been using it 10 years before we ever got a hold of it.
Right.
And they already knew, they stated way back when, that you needed 2.25 grams per brood box to be a effective kill. And that's, I'll say, 10 years ago. And so now here we are 10 years later, and we're at 2 grams. And we're still behind the 8 ball.
We are behind the 8 ball in the Varroa mite fight.
We should be at 3 grams per brood box. At least a minimum of 3 grams. I don't know whether or not they need to be any higher than that, but I also state what that statement is that everybody starts, they're talking about using OA now. And I'm like, why? I mean, I learned the hard way that I do it in the wintertime, starting around end of October, when the hive is the science has been telling us, I just had never listened, that do it when the hive is the most brutalist there is for us in our area, which is in the wintertime. Now, if you go down into deep south where Brad is at Cajun Homestead, they don't have a winter. It was just like the same thing about, what was that guy's name? Oh, he's down there at Florida State University, and he was on Cayman Show. I know Brian from Flower Street was anyway, he was talking about OA not being so great and whatever. And he happened to be up here at one of our talks. And he said, well, that's like, he said, we did it in January in Florida, but that's like up here in Maryland in September. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't use OA in September up here. So that tells me that OA is no good in the deep south. It's
Right.
more of a mid-Atlantic,
Yep.
mid-country, northern. It's best in the northern tier of our country and our
Yes.
state and our country. And that's my personal opinion of it.
And that plays into it.
Yeah,
And that there's other research out
right.
there that shows that.
Yeah, Cameron Jack, that's the guy, you know.
Yep.
He was talking about it, and I didn't you know, it takes me a while to think about things like that. I didn't come back at him at that live conference and all that, but and that's the thing. It's, you know, we're talking about these mite treatments, about OA. I think a lot of it, you know, definitely is location dependent or weather dependent where
Yep.
you're located at. The deep south, I don't think it works as well. Now it's a knockdown. And if you're overrun with mites and hit them, and you know, and you got brood in, or yeah, it's going to knock it down, and then you can go in there with something else. But it's more of a, you know, a cold weather area. There's right there at Cajun. Helps, you know, just like I said, it helps get the mites knocked back.
Yep.
Until we can treat in cooler weather. And
right.
For them, cooler weather in the middle of January is about 70 or 80 degrees, I think is what Brad has told us. So that's when they can use a Formic Pro or they can use an AprilGuard.
Yep.
You know, they don't have quite, they have the options, but at a different time of year where we're sitting in the house with it, you know, next to the fire, they're still brooding and working down in the deep south with their bees. They don't really have a downtime
right
with their bees for them. You know, I'm not talking about harvesting honey through the wintertime, but you know, where we put ours to quote to bed and we're done.
Yes. That's right.
They're not done down there. They can still be in their hives, opening them up, doing things to sort of manage them through the winter. And all that. So, hey, Philip.
Hey, Philip.
Hey, Charlie. Hey, Bill. Hey, Will.
Hey, man.
Hey, Charlie, you through talking about our way yet? I was going to go back to what Will was talking about earlier, but because I had something to show you
What's
guys,
that?
I didn't want to interrupt. Well, let me see if I can flip my camera around here. If I can figure out how to operate this thing. Setting camera. All right.
Boxes everywhere, Phil.
Oh gosh, that's just all stuff. Get ready for next year.
Like supers.
Okay, so these boxes here, and I've got them stacked short for a reason. These have drawn comb in them, and I had 2 stacks that were like 8 or 9 high. And when I got down about 5 supers, even though I'd been putting stuff in them, tried to keep putting it in at least once a month, I had wax moth after about 5 supers down. So I've got most of my supers on my hive because we're getting a pretty good fall flow. But so I said, I got to come up with some way that I can put these moth crystals or moth balls or whatever every 4 supers, but I don't want to have to unstack them to refresh them. So I started about trying to come up with something, and I show you guys what I built. So I built this thing, which has a drawer, and you put the moth crystals on that, and you just slide it in. And then I'm still sitting here trying to figure out a way to hold this real tight and seal off. I built a little gasket into it down in there. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm thinking, man, I need like 10 of these things. And I'm like, this is just way too much darn trouble. So like 4 a.m, I wake up and like the light comes on. So what I did was I bought a bunch of these. These are 1-inch plugs. I got them on Amazon. They're super cheap. So what I did was I just built myself a 2.5-inch frame, and I drilled me a 1-inch hole on the long side, and the short side. It's just all it is a 2.5-inch frame, and I built it out of an old fence board just because I'm going to use cedar anyway because I don't want to have to paint the darn thing. And then I built this little kind of tray right here, which is nothing more than a piece of coroplast with some wood, you can see, stapled to the bottom of it, or wood stapled to it. And then I've got that screwed just below the hole, and it's movable. I can move it either from the front or to the side, or to this side. And then all I have to do is take my hive tool, pop this plug out. I can do this one-handed. Pop the plug out like that. Take my moth crystals or balls or whatever. Push them. It'll be stacked up. Just push them through, and I can even get down in there and see if they've dissolved or not just by looking through that hole. That's why I made this thing so small, is so I could literally see if the crystals had dissolved. And I can, with this solution, I can tape. I use painter's tape, like 3/4 painter's tape, between my boxes anyway, to seal them off in the wintertime. And that allows me to still do this. So I may even do this on the very top. But anyway, that's a way to be able to, put your crystals in there through that little hole. If you're using the really crushed crystals, you might want to use like a funnel or something to get it in there. But anyway.
That's some pretty ingenious shit there, Phil.
I would call that the pool, the pocket pool crystal.
Pocket pool. Okay.
Hey, you got to put your pool balls in there.
Just keep rolling them little mothballs down in there, right?
Yeah. The crystals.
You can get each up a little figure 8. Hey.
Yeah. Hang on, put my phone down. I'm gonna show you the crystals I have. Yeah. These are the ones I get at Walmart. They call them moth crystals, but they're like little plugs or something. They're, I don't know, about as big as a pencil and cut into. You see, there's a picture of them. I like the mothballs better that I get at Tractor Supply. And I think the ones you get at the Dollar Tree are also, I think they're in the moth ball form. The ball form would work better for this because
you can just roll them right into that thing.
Yeah, roll them in there. They do okay. I did practice with them. Let me see if I can do it here. So anyway, you can see down in there, there's little, I call them little plugs. But let me see if I can pop this off. So if I pop that out, I'm just going to pour some of these out on the table. But yeah, I can just take these, plop them in there like that, just shove them in the hole, put this size, I'd probably put like 20 of these in there. But it works out okay. It beats having to unstack and put them in there and restack them for sure. But yeah, put a bunch of them in there and then pop the plug back in.
Man, that's pretty slick there, Phil.
Yeah, it's pretty cool shit, Phil.
So maybe you want to come up with something like that, Will. It might help you store your stacks.
Yeah, that way I don't have to break them down here in a few months and add more to them.
Yeah, keep them from pulling them apart. But yeah, it just kind of came to me because I was just struggling with this other thing. I mean, the other thing will work. It's just takes so long to build and figure out and all that. It's like,
yeah, it's another bee project of something to make.
Yeah, and this that thing with the plugs, I can build that thing in 10 minutes.
Yep.
Anyway, I just want to get on there and show you guys that. See what your viewers might think about it. I can't see the comments, so.
Hey, 21st B. Darren, how are you? Tom and Melissa, how are you? Can you see that one, Phil, on the screen?
Yeah, I went to the comments. That must be Tom. Melissa has a little more couth than that.
Yeah, well, it came up via honeybees. That's why I was.
That paramoth crystals, they don't smell that bad to me. I mean, I don't want to sit there and breathe them, but Tom's part bug anyway, so
Yeah.
probably why he reacts to it. Where do you get your crystals, Will?
I got a 5-gallon bucket of paramoth, bud. Now I did try getting some of them from Dollar General that I forget what they're marked. I picked up some little packs of them and they weren't too bad, but it just kind of got to be such a pain in the butt that I ended up with a 5-gallon bucket of the stuff. And
yeah,
I put a quarter of a cup
the
scoop in on some cardboard or on a paper plate and just stack it up that way.
But yeah, and that probably when you're buying that many of them, it probably comes out, for a decent price.
Yeah, it's expensive, but
for small time people, that 5-gallon bucket's just way more than they would ever need for.
Yeah, they make a 1-gallon bucket. I started out with a little container of it, and then I ended up with a 1-gallon bucket, and I liked the way the bucket, the bucket was pretty convenient. Even the 1 gallon, I think it was a 1 gallon, and now I have a 5-gallon that I'm working my way through, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, I bought some of those at Dollar Tree also, and bought every pack they had, and they haven't restocked them. So it's like they wouldn't be able to keep up. You can't order like 30 packs at a time though, and have them just shipped to the store. I may do that.
I did the toilet mints at Dollar General, and I did some mothballs from Dollar General, trying to look at having the right. It's got to be the right chemical in it, and
yeah.
And then I had some of those little square packs. I think they were from Dollar General, and I X'd the top of them to open them up and set them in there. That worked okay, but I looked and I was putting, when I was putting my supers on, I set a whole bunch of them packs off to the side. Didn't really think nothing of it. Well, they never disintegrated. You know what I mean? So I don't.
Really?
Yeah, they never disintegrated. So I'm like, well, how much do these really help me? So that kind of reinforced being on the paramoth.
Well,
so
the ones I bought were from Dollar Tree, not Dollar General, and they were the Enos brand mothballs, and they were the paradichlorobenzene.
Mm-hmm.
They were the right chemical. Now, the only problem I had with mine was I thought I was taking them out to my farm, so I left them in my truck, and the things melt when they get hot.
Oh, I bet they did a number in a truck.
So they just basically turned into those urinal patties. The balls just all melted. Oh. And a couple of them had like a little enough of a hole that stunk my truck up for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I had to ride the first couple of days. I had to drive with the windows down because it would literally overtake you.
Yeah.
Tom couldn't have made it in there.
Well, you don't have to worry about moths in your truck.
That's right. Right. That's absolutely right. But it's weird that the price at Tractor Supply, which usually everything's more expensive at Tractor Supply, is very close to the price at Walmart. They're almost the same. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's odd. That's normally not that way.
I was just looking at it, and I was like, I saw a track. I said, hey, these are probably high. And I looked, and they had bigger packs. What are these? They were probably about the same size packs as these. These came from Walmart. Oh, this is a 1 pound pack. So I can't remember what the size of those was, but I did a per ounce comparison. None of them are as cheap as Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree, you get like 4 ounces, but they're only like $1.25 each. But yeah, these are probably like $8 a bag for these.
Okay.
Maybe six or seven, something like that.
So, well, can I give you my 2 cents about our topic tonight, Bill?
Sure.
I'm probably somewhat frustrated by, some might call it, government overreach. I do feel that there's a fair amount of dysfunction with EPA.
Yeah.
And I am frustrated in general with all this crap. And I call it crap because I think it's crap. I think that the EPA, and they're playing around with not letting us, directing us and not letting us, telling us that it's the law, it's the law, it's the law, is government overreach at its best.
Yep.
I think that we should be able to hit our colonies with the amount of oxalic acid that we need to get the job done to kill the mites to save our bees. I also feel that the EPA and their heavy-handedness makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to be able to bring good products to the market to help us beat these mites back and save our bees. I think that the amount of bureaucracy that different manufacturers have to go through to try and support us is ridiculous. And it offends me, frankly. I think that a Varroxan strip that's out there now, and don't hold me to this is just kind of me in the rough. I think that's got about 25 grams of the oxalic acid and the glycerin in it. And I think that if a person knows what they're doing, they can make a similar strip out of maybe a little different product. And it can be it can hold 3 times as much of that mixture of glycerin and oxalic acid and be much more effective and last a lot longer and be a better tool for us in the hives. And that's just me and my little jaded world, Bill. But I'm very frustrated, very, very frustrated with the whole government bureaucracy, what they put different people through when they're trying to market things. And I'm very frustrated with all that. And consequently, because of that frustration, I'm going to vaporize oxalic acid as hard and as often as I need to knock bees down in probably December and January, understanding that vaporizing oxalic acid is most effective when there's no brood or less brood in a hive because it doesn't penetrate the cappings. So that's kind of where I'm at with things. I don't know if it's the right place to be. We all manage our bees differently and we all use different products that we're comfortable with. But that's where I'm at. Do I overuse oxalic acid? Well, this year, and I'm going to go back actually to the tail end of last year in December and January, I vaporized oxalic acid probably twice in December and twice in January. And is that overusing it? I put 4 grams in everything. And if that's overusing oxalic acid, then I did. Now, I didn't put anything in my colonies after that until here just after I pulled the supers off. And then I hit them with Apiguard with the thymol product. And I'm going through now trying to see what that, where I'm at with my mites now. I'm going through testing. I told you guys I got inspected here the other week, and one apiary that I thought I'd be in trouble in didn't have hardly any mites. One that I had fully treated had more mites than I wanted to see. But I'm gonna vaporize OA coming up. I'll probably put a little more Apiguard on if I find more, apiaries that aren't at the mite count that I'm looking for, and then I'm just going to vaporize again. So that's kind of, maybe I'm on the lighter side, maybe I'm on the lesser side, but again, we kind of all do our own thing. And my fallback previously had been, if I was uncomfortable with my mites this time of year, I'd hit them with 4 grams, and I would probably do it every 4 days and do 7 rounds of that. But I'm also being real cognizant of 30 days between putting different chemicals into the hive.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of that. I just kind of wanted to put my thing across. I'm probably very frustrated with where some of the stuff's at with the government at this point, and the lack of support with killing mites. So
I'll say this: the past 2 years, I've had to toe the company line, me being the president of the state of Virginia. There's a lot of things that I don't agree with, like Will, the way they're doing things. And I may regret saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You need to do what works for your bees the way you see fit.
The box. Yeah.
Amen.
Yep. And in your different climate, it's going to be a little different for everybody.
Yep.
Probably.
Everybody's climate's different. Everything is different for everybody. And what works for one person's bees may not work for other people's bees. But I will say this, but when I'm putting information out, it's backed in science. The research is out there. You can go read it. I'm
not questioning.
No, I'm not saying you are, but what I'm saying is this. I've asked for the presentation of Don't Let Varroa Crash You. That's the most recent research that I can find on Varroa mite and use of oxalic acid to combat the Varroa mite. And there's well-known universities that did this research, and they came up with a lot of answers that a lot of people didn't like. And that's why people don't listen to it, because the number one thing they came up with, and the EPA came up with 10 years ago, is get rid of screen bottom boards. It's not doing you any good. The other thing they came up with, stop chasing the brood cycles. Oxalic acid is only effective when there is no brood on the hive. So those are the two big things that nobody wants to listen to, because for years we've all been taught, chase the brood cycle with the OA vapor. Okay, so you chase the brood cycle, and then when you do your mite check, you find out, well, it either worked really well in some areas, and other areas it didn't work worth a damn.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'd like to add something to that, Bill, though. The studies that they do are all based on recommended dosages.
That's true.
And they space the treatments out too far apart. If they would actually do a study with 3 to 4 grams every 3 to 4 days and then report on what that does, because in my opinion, and I use screen bottom boards so I can see if it's working or not, and it knocks the hell out of them. But it takes at least 5 treatments, and I do 4 to 5 days apart. But at that point, you've covered the brood cycle, and you've caught just about every phoretic mite that's in that month that you're doing that.
And I agree with that. You're killing the phoretic mite, which means there's less mites that can get under the cappings when they hatch out.
Right.
So, I mean, that just makes sense.
Yeah, and if get back to it with Will, I agree completely about, especially how they hold back the people that are trying to bring products to market. That's a huge spot on there. But have you gotten any pushback from the EPA from just regular beekeepers for say doing an extended release when they don't have a permit?
The only pushback that I've gotten, and I think I've said it on here before, and most of you people from Virginia will understand what I'm talking about. There's one person in the state of Virginia that goes on just about every chat channel on here and monitors it. I'm not saying it's throughout the U.S., but it's for the state of Virginia, EPA. They monitor it to see who's going to talk about using it, and then they go check their hives.
Yeah, I was getting really frustrated. This was 2 years ago, and people like Randy Oliver and Kamen and those guys, they were all doing the studying the extended release and reporting their findings. And they was all saying, I got a special permit to do this. You guys don't go do this. It's illegal, yada, yada, yada. Knowing that people probably would go try it. That's why beekeepers, some of us are a little bit, stubborn like that. But then I went to see a speaker. I'm not even going to say his name. I don't want it to get back on him. But he was talking about managing 4,500 colonies. And he just came out and said he moves his colonies to, I think it was Michigan from Florida, 4,000 colonies, and he drops oxalic acid vapor strips, not vapor, but oxalic acid extended release strips on them. He runs screen bottom boards on his pallets, mainly for ventilation. And he does it, and he leaves them on there until he moves them back to Florida in October. And he just came out and said it. He didn't say, I've got a permit. He didn't say, do it or don't do it. He said, this is what I do. And when I saw that big time beekeeper say that, I was like, that's all I needed to hear. Somebody who just does he said, this works in my operation, and I don't think it hurts or gets in the honey or causes any problems. So this is what I do. And he just put it out there. No qualifiers whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that was very refreshing to hear.
Yes. I think I know the speaker you're talking about because I've heard him speak and I've heard him say that. So, but
I've also heard a big commercial guy. I forget what, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was treating a certain way or whatever it was, and he got fined. They came in on him and got fined like crazy. I forget who it was now, but I forget what the story was.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But I don't know. I mean, if you want to talk about EPA and, shutting the little entrepreneur down, just all you have to talk to is Mike with his oxalic acid acid in the bag, and, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's crazy.
To try to, be able to market it. And then they come back at him and say, well, you owe us $15,000 or $20,000 of maintenance fee. Well, what is that? We need you. We need to suck you dry so we can pay the paychecks that are sitting behind on his desk, because that's what it boils down to. Because he's just a little guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to get off of here, Bill. I got some stuff I got to get done, but I just want to get on here and show you that. Not get into the politics, but it didn't take much to call me.
I didn't mean to get into politics either, but
I completely agree with what you said about you need to do what's best for your bees.
Yes. I've wanted to say that now for 2 years, and I can't. I couldn't. I got one more month left, and I don't care.
All right. We'll see y'all later.
Thanks, Phil.
Night, Bill.
See you, Phil. Hey, Rodney.
Yeah, it's just it's not right, but you got to do what's best for your bees. And like I said, everybody's bees are different. You live in different climates. In Virginia, there's 4 different climates, and there's probably 20 microclimates in Virginia. So what works here may not work in Northern Virginia. What works in Northern Virginia is necessarily going to work in Southeast Virginia. So
yeah, and I think it'll be a whole different take, with the microclimates like you're talking about, Bill, in areas where we have the humidity like we do in the East Coast.
You're right.
Or on the golf course, the golf coast as well, Where Bracken and those guys that are out in the dry climates, and like Tom, or I'm sorry, Todd, they've got a whole different environment out there where they don't have the humidity and it's like a high desert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think everything affects differently.
And then they got the tremendous heat and stuff.
Yep.
And some of it goes back to how the beginning beekeeper was educated. So, it all ties together.
There's still guys doing sugar rolls.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
They still teach that though.
Yep.
Yeah, they're still teaching it.
They're still
There's
teaching
curriculum in Virginia.
They're showing sugar roll, and they're showing alcohol wash. And there's been some comparisons where there wasn't any difference. But I started with sugar rolls way back when, and if where we are, high humidity again, it don't work in a high humidity environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a buzzkill about the whole thing. It's a frustration for me. I think it's a frustration for every beekeeper a little bit.
Yeah, let's face it. I mean, beekeeping, beekeeping in general. I mean, every time you turn around, you have like the average beekeeper lasts maybe 2 or 3 years, the new one, and then they get frustrated because their bees all die and they're done with it. And then all that stuff. And I'm like, even with me and you and everybody else here, we go out there, and Will's had issues last year because he did certain things. I've had issues of things that I've done. And I guess it was maybe last year, I had a bunch of die off, and I spent thousands of dollars buying nukes and new queens and to reestablish my apiary back up to speed again, as per se. And it's like most people are like, forget this. We ain't spending that kind of money. Now the three of us here, or at least the three of us on the shit chat here, we're how would you say? We're more of the business end of beekeeping. We're looking, okay, we want to have a certain amount of harvesting of honey, or we're going to sell bees, and we're going to have we're assessing to have a certain income from our bees. And where the other person is a hobby, where it's just a money pit where they're just putting money into it. After a while, they get to the point where we're tired of putting money into this. We're going to quit. And so, it's a constant battle of trying to keep our bees and our hives alive and keep them, 100% alive. Well, I don't think anybody gets that through that time. It's like over this past weekend, I had a hive out there that it was a production hive. I put it in a nuke. That was the one bill that I found the queen that was my queen underneath the bottom board, and I put her in the hive. Now I just combined all that. The queen's gone. I don't know where she's at, whether they killed her or whether she flew off or what, or whether she's retarded. Who knows?
Maybe you crushed a few brain cells when you grafted, Charlie. You never know.
I don't know. Anyway, I shook all them bees into another 10 framer down the row. And I don't know, even the one I shook them into, it's like, okay, I condensed that hive down to 2 mediums. And I'm like, I see some queen cells in there. And I'm like, okay, here's a queen that was it because of a treatment? No, I don't think so. Because there was some, when I was putting treatments on, I'm like, I'm questioning this, but I can't take the time right now investigate.
Yeah, Tom was made a statement. Where is it? If I can find it again. He agreed with Will. And the beekeeping industry doesn't get the same love that the cattle, pork, and row crops get. But it's actually, he said that, it's equally important, but if it weren't for the bees, there'd be no life.
And that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, all those three different things that he mentioned there, it's all big money. And, a big money network, feed mills and processing plants and chemicals and all this other stuff, machinery. Look at that.
Yep.
I mean, tractors and combines and trucks and, big ticket items, whereas the biggest ticket item that we would have if we're at that in commercial level would be a cow and an extraction line.
Yeah.
A complete line, which would probably be $150,000, $200,000, depending on what you buy.
Yeah, and you mentioned tractors. Look at it. Look at 25 years ago, the price of a John Deere tractor, and look at it now. Same horsepower, same color paint, same motor. They've not changed the motors much. Maybe put a turbo on it to get a few more horsepower out of it. But look what they did to the price.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say, a 4020 John Deere, which is a 100 horsepower tractor, in the 70s, you didn't have the electronics you got today, and you don't have you don't have the comfort cab that you got today, and the comfort
Right.
stuff.
But you could get a cab. You could get a cab.
Yeah, a year-round cab, but nothing like you got today.
It had heat in it, but it didn't have air conditioning in it.
Right.
But if you wanted a cab, you could get a cab, and it was $200 or $300 to get a cab. Now it's
$10,000.
$10,000 to $15,000 to get a cab.
It's I can tell you it's $10,000 for a cab.
Yeah.
I asked about that several years back. That's been several years back.
Yeah.
So I mean, technology has exploded the price of tractors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let me get down a rabbit hole for a second. I'm going to put my little tinfoil hat on for a second, right?
Uh-oh.
You guys,
it's getting serious if he's putting that tinfoil hat on.
Yeah, the tinfoil hat's going on for a second. So I was talking up at our PA state. They had a picnic that I went to, and I was talking to one of the super mega big, starts with an H, apiaries, guys.
He was actually on a video too, way back 15 years ago or more.
Yep. And, we all look at bees and we look at the hive. We don't look at the individual bee. Okay. I'm going to make a relation for you here on this. So I don't really consider when I squash a bee, when I'm moving frames or when I'm moving boxes, that just happens. Right. Well,
yeah.
So when I was talking to this huge mega commercial guy, he was talking about how, he feels that some of the things that they're spraying on crops are ending up at the end of the season in our hives. And then when our bees are weaker in the wintertime, that those chemicals are killing our bees, to an extent. And I just kind of want to make a relation with those down to the individual bees, right? And the colony surviving. He said, bees are the kind of the barometer out there, for us as well. If the bees are dying, something's happening or could be happening to us as well. And we don't think about that individual bee life, right? That little bee that gets squished when we're manipulating the hives. But on the bigger scale, all these things that are getting sprayed into all these crops that we're consuming, how many people are dying from cancer?
Yeah, true.
How many, and I relate that to those, is that some of the little bees that get squished when we're manipulating colonies, or some of those people that are, this stuff's building up in their system and they're ending up with cancer and ends up killing them. So I do think, like I say, my tinfoil hat is on, but I do think that there's a little bit of a relation, to what's killing our bees, may very well be hurting us significantly and taking out the weaker colonies, taking out the weaker people as well. Just don't be one of the weaker people. Don't be the one that gets squished in between the boxes when we're moving hives, right? All right.
Well, I went to the doctors today, and we kind of got on that subject to a certain extent about like bread, which has the everybody's allergic to gluten free.
Yeah.
Gluten. Everything's gluten. Well, you know what? I don't think it's gluten at all.
Nope.
Because my doctor said, I've talked to different people who went to Italy. They've eaten all kinds of in huge amounts of pasta over there.
Yeah.
Never get sick whatsoever. As soon as they come back to the United States, they're getting sick all the time. I got a friend of mine's son was in the military living in Germany, and his wife she would eat eggs here, or she would eat, I think, bread here, and sick all the time. Go to Germany, buy eggs over there. I don't know whether it was a supermarket or locally, and bread, no sickness whatsoever. So what are they putting in either it's a type of wheat? Are they putting something in the flour when they're processing it? I know I had one guy come in here Sunday, bought a bunch of honey from me, and I've heard this before, and they think it's widespread. And I'm like, no, it's not widespread, but where they take and spray the wheat, the grain product, to kill it so they can harvest it. And I said, they don't do that on the East Coast, as far as I know, with glyphosate or whatever. We
don't desiccate anything here on the East Coast.
Right. It's mostly, I told him, in like South Dakota, North Dakota, the northern tier states that have a very compressed growing season. I said, that's as far as I know about that. I said, the people who are telling you all that, they want to, they want to sound the alarm that it's everywhere. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But we got wheat here on the East Coast, which is, what is it? Summer wheat, spring wheat. And then you got red wheat, which is out in the middle of the Midwest, which I understand that they developed that because of a fungus years ago. Yeah. And that's been.
Yeah. Red wheat is a harder denser grain than the wheat we grow here on the East Coast.
Yeah. I mean, it was developed about fungi, or something like that out there in the Midwest and all that. So I don't know. I think, like Will says, I think that our food system, they're either chemicals or something, or the processing of our food is an issue.
Yeah. Via Honeybees said it. The bees are the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
So
and that's very much what they.
Sarah made a good statement here. So, Sarah, do you think if you're eating organic grains or organic foods that you're not getting any pesticides whatsoever?
They spray to kill the weeds, and then they combine the grains. That's not. They don't do that around here.
I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but organic farmers still use pesticides. They don't use as much, but it is still used, and herbicides are still used. So if you think you're not getting any of it at all when you eat organic food, you are, just not as much. Because if you read the organic standard, it will open your eyes.
Anyway, all right, we need to get back on the bees.
Yeah.
We went down a hole there. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we went down a big rabbit hole there for a minute. So it opened up a whole. Yeah, it opened up a whole big can of worms that we kind of kicked over there for a minute. So we got to pick them back up and put them back in a can.
Yeah.
Save them for another night, right?
Yep.
I don't
you
know.
can't
That's
solve
like
all the problems in one night.
No.
I went back to the organic thing, and I think aren't they? There's a bunch of folks out there that don't believe we should use man-made fertilizer, and I'm like, okay, why? I never could ever figure that one out, but anyway. But
It's just a label. That's true, Clay. It's just a label. That's right.
yeah, and the fact of the matter is, depends on the farmer. Well,
Charlie, I think
my thing of it is when you take your grain to the granary, do they keep it separated? I don't
No.
think so. You know, that was like I went to a granary and he says, "Oh yeah, I went over here to this granary over here and they stored my seed wheat for me."
Okay.
I says, "Well, then how did you store it in that silo?" "Oh, well, we stored everybody's in the silo, and then next spring you went over there and got some wheat." "Well, then you didn't get your seed wheat. If you had some really nice looking stuff, you didn't get back what you put in that bin." I'm like, "Well, that's the biggest hoax there ever was."
Yeah.
I'll be back in a second, guys.
So Tom wants me to talk about what I'm bringing in the hobby. I'll be glad to. I am bringing the new line of extractors that we have. I am bringing Anel products, and I will be selling Acorn products at Nabi. And I don't need it, but if you need anything, I am taking pre-orders for Nabi at reduced prices, and it is on my website. So I have had 0 pre-orders right now. This time last year, I had them running out of my ears. So all the products that I'm gonna have that are for sale are on my website on the Nabi page. So if you need something, go check the prices out and let me know. So how are your bees doing, Tom? Come on in here. We haven't seen you in a while. So I've been deserted. I think Charlie's getting something to eat. I hear the refrigerator.
No, it's the microwave.
Popcorn time.
No, I got a donut.
Ah.
Yeah, but
So next spring, I am going to have the queen rearing class again. If anybody's interested, it will be a 2-day class, just like this year. It's going to be a little bit different because I've picked up a few new things. So Clay, they are, from the last email I got, I don't think many people are putting stuff up on the Nabi site because I understood it through the email that I got that Cayman's group is charging people to advertise on their website and their Facebook page.
Money hungry.
Yeah. So that's why I think nobody's advertising. Did you hear the same thing, Michael? No, you don't get to see much of my bees because my bees have been put away for the winter, but we were in them week before last, and all of my hives are extremely strong and boiling bees up out of the top. So, yep. You have to be a certain level sponsor to get that privilege, basically. Yeah, I think you're right. You have to sponsor something. Yep. So it does cost you money in the long run.
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with what I want to do at Nobby this year. Last year was great with all the advertisement, and I was a vendor last year, and that was a flop for me. But we got the opportunity to put 2 different ads up, on the Nobby page, and I think that was pretty valuable. Bill, that's how I bought 23 cases of frames from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and I'm just kind of I know you've got your stuff up right now, and I'm trying to figure out, and that was a little conversation I was thinking about bringing up. I'm trying to wrap my head around what I want to do next year bee wise, and I'm trying to wrap my head around, what's my increase going to be.
Yep. And I can tell you right now, my pre-orders are getting cut off December 1st, whether I have any or not. And I'll be bringing stuff to Nobby. So if you want something, you're going to have to get it at Nobby and take it home with you, because it's the only way you're going to get it unless you pay me to ship it. So I'm, and just to maybe segue into a little bit of a different thing here. So I'm trying to decide what my increase is going to be next year. I have my 100 colonies set up that are going to be on honey. And then I have, let's just say roughly, let's just use round numbers. I have 50 colonies that I want to make bees with next year. Yep.
And I'm probably either going to buy packages. I bought 30 packages last year to make up what my losses. Well, I bought more packages than I had losses, but I bought a bunch of packages to make increase with last year. And I'm trying to wrap my head around what I'm going to do this year, whether I'm going to buy packages or nukes, or I'm going to look at buying full 10 frame colonies too. But anyway, I'm trying to wrap my head around budgetary wise. What's it cost to add one colony?
Can I answer this real quick?
Sure. Yep.
Highland, my Cybin product is cheaper than Hilco's product, but it's made 10 times better. It's a heavier barrel. It's a heavier stainless steel, and there's no plastic in it. There's no plastic in the barrel. And I can tell you that it will outlast the Hilco extractor by at least 10 years. Sorry about that, Will.
No, that's good. That's cool.
Now, I'm going to increase next year as well. So I'm going to go up by at least 20 hives next year. At least 20.
Mm-hmm.
Because that other little project that you and I have been talking about, I have that meeting the first weekend in October.
Yep. So what I'm trying to wrap my head around is just roughly what's that increase going to cost. So just looking at one hive, and I'm gonna go a little different. Well, Bill, let's talk about yours. What's your increase going to cost? You're going to put a bottom board on. Yep, per hive. It's going to be a bottom board. It's going to be a box with 10 frames in it. Right?
Hold on, I can tell you exactly what it's going to cost me per hive. Per hive, it's going to cost me about $89 a hive.
Okay. That's cheaper than I expected, Bill. I'm budgeting $150.
But you got to remember, I'm getting it cheaper than you are.
Absolutely. So for your customer, or for everybody here in the chat, I'm budgeting, and it's a little heavy, and we can argue about numbers. I don't mean to do that. I'm just spitballing a number out there that for me running 4-way pallets, I'm figuring every increased colony that I do is going to be a quarter of the cost of the pallet. It's going to be 2 deep boxes with frames in it. and it's going to be probably a migratory cover. There probably will be a bucket associated with it. There'll probably be a candy board because I run candy boards in the wintertime. My spitball, and just for those people out there increasing, my spitball is $150. I think I'm going to have that in the gear till I put everything on it. And then I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, I want to go up 50 colonies, or I want to go up 100 colonies next year. 100
Your
colonies.
price is good. The more colonies you go up, your price per colony is going to drop.
But
because you should be able to get your equipment cheaper at that point. And you should be able to get your bees cheaper at that point, unless you're going to do splits, which those are free, except for the queens you're going to put in them. And if you raise your own queens, you've spent no money on bees. The only thing you've bought is equipment.
So just for round numbers, if I go up 100 colonies, and I don't know what it's going to be yet, that's what I'm wrenching around about. That's $15,000 worth of gear, not including a queen, not including bees, not including feed, not including mite treatments, right?
Oh, well, if you're including all that in it, my cost would end up being about $300 a hive.
Oh yeah. No, I mean I could get to, if you put bees and you put everything in it, it could be up to $4 to $5. I tell people figure $500 roughly. If you're just getting started and you don't have anything, figure $500 and you ought to do at least 2, to get started. And there's a little bit of slop in there that could cover a veil, and there's a little bit of slop in there that'll cover a couple tools and some things like that. But I don't know. I'm going through budgeting right now. I think my increase next year may slow down.
But see, if I go up those 20 hives and I am successful with this upcoming project next spring, I'm going to get a return on those hives, just like you will. If it all comes to fruition, we'll get, you and I both will get return on those hives. Not the full return, but we will get return.
Yep. And my goal, I'm not there yet, but my goal is to try and make somewhere between $500 and $600 per colony. Yeah. So Charlie, you made average 60 pounds of honey on your hives this year. So you got somewhere that starts at a $600 or so return. You lose till you sell it for what you sell at a pound. You take half a buck off for the bottle, and you some things like that. But you're probably, Charlie, in the $500 to $600 per colony range, I would think. Now your feeds up and down, your mite treatments cost you some things like that. But if you're, for what you're selling, if you're making an average of 60 pounds, you're making that. You're making that. And that's where I want to start that's where I'm hoping to start to get to. I'm going to be at half at next year, but I want to be at 500 the following year,
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just like right now. I was talking about over the weekend, in between baling hay, I went out there. What was it? What did I do this weekend? It was last Sunday, I put Formic Pro on everything. So this coming weekend, I'll take Formic Pro off. I was feeding 5 or 6 hives. So now all the feeders are off. And I'm talking quart jars, just spot feeding with some Pro Sweep. And I don't know. I had right now production hive. I'm supposed to have 18 production hives. I'm down. I figure there's one out there that I just put them bees in. I don't think it's be any good because I've already condensed it down to 2 boxes, and I probably could really push it into 1. And if I could find a queen, that would be fine. But you're not going to find a queen now. And So I'm down to, instead of 18 hives, I'm down to 16. I'm going to figure for
of
next
your
spring
production colonies.
in
Yeah.
production colonies.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
problem I have with production colonies is it takes a season to rebuild that colony back up. You're not going to get a highly production colony out of that.
Yeah, it
And
takes a year.
huh?
It takes a year to get those colonies to a production level for
Right.
the following.
Yeah, it does. So
And then
those-
I'm looking at my queen rearing situation where I'm like getting queens mated, you know, and what I had to go through this year. And then I'm looking at, yeah, I could spend the money and buy. I already, you know, I've been working on this queen thing for 2 years. I seen what happened last year. I had great production, 1,000 pounds, but I also had pretty good weather.
Mhm.
This year, the weather wasn't quite as good. I had queen issues. My queens were second year queens. They weren't, I could see in the hive, they were not produced. She was not laying like she was the first year. And also, with my knowledge from seminars, she reduces by 40% in laying power. So it showed in the hive. So I replaced a good portion of them with my own queens this year. And now in my mind, I've got an established queen replacement program. I
Mhm.
kept thinking about, can I make my own queens? Can I put them in June and not have to buy queens and then get them through the winter? And I'm like, you know what? You can buy queens easier in the springtime and you can requeen with a higher acceptance rate in the springtime.
Yep.
So to me,
That's why I'm doing what I'm doing in the spring. You know what I mean?
I've come to the conclusion I will raise queens, and I mean this year it took me a season to tweak. Number one, the with the bills. I learned how to set up a cell builder population wise, and definitely could tell it because when you're getting 28 out of 30 cells accepted and capped off, you know I'm doing it right. I learned my lesson. So I got that, and then I went and got easy peasy cages and learned how to let the bees feed things and give me a little bit more time flexibility there. I've talked to our friend up in Pennsylvania about maybe, and I'm thinking back way I used to do it. I put cap queen cells in mating boxes, and then we had a big discussion on last Friday night with James and everybody up in Canada about their mating box, how they made them, you know, and all that. I haven't delved into that, but sounds plausible. And so it's going to take me another season of learning how to populate mating boxes, maybe using James's process, which will make it easier, and all that. So in the meantime, I'm figuring on buying queens in the springtime. Now I'm going to hopefully see my queens take off in the spring because they're going to be 1 year queens. It'll be their first major honey season. And then I've got other ones in there right now. There are 2024 queens. I just didn't get replaced. And I will be ordering queens to replace them this coming springtime. And so it's a learning curve. That's the whole thing about beekeeping. It takes you years to learn all this stuff, and to really know what you're going to do with it, and all that. And if you grow up in the bee, it's like farming. If you grow up on a farm, you're learning all this at 8 years old, and by the time you're 20 years old, really, you kind of know what you're doing.
yeah.
And with me, you learn it late in life. It's like my father used to say, he said it takes a lifetime to learn something and all that stuff. So that's where I'm at. I mean, when you're talking about cost and stuff, yes, I have that business attitude towards my bees. Yeah, they're sort of a hobby / sideline business. I run a spreadsheet of hive input costs. That could be a bee suit smoker, whatever, sugar, medication for sure. I know how much input cost per year I put in for the most part. I know how much honey I've sold, and I, automatically deducts it, and I can see my, I might, let's say I make $8,000 gross profit, but I only got $3,000 profit because of, the expenses took everything.
Well, Charlie, that's a good point. When you take what your profits are for your bees this year or last year, and you divide it by the number of colonies, what are your colonies of bees making you? What's the average?
I don't think I've ever really.
Because my goal is to try and have each colony
profits. You might hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my goal is not next year, but the following is my goal is to have each colony make me an average of somewhere between $500 and $600. I know that's a huge spread because I'm not dialed into it yet, but you have to set a baseline goal. And I was just curious. You've been tracking all your information. Your hive count. Could you put your fingers on what you've made out of each colony, clear profit wise?
You're saying take my clear profit and divide it by the amount of colonies, right?
Basically, I mean, yep, that is what I'm saying.
Okay, so
I'm curious what that number is.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Charlie, how are you?
All right.
Hello,
I
Bill.
can tell you my hives I lost about $50 a hive this year.
We don't want to talk about how much I lost. My money's all flowing in right now, not coming back.
Yeah.
That's what you call an investment, Will.
Yes, I'm making
it's investment, all right.
Yep.
Everything can't go right 100% of the time. That's what makes me nervous about agriculture and farming.
Problem is, it's happened for the past 3 years in a row. I've lost at least $50 or more per hive.
All right, let's see.
And it's all due to drought.
Yeah, that'll do it quick, won't it, Bill?
Oh, yeah.
What's interesting is I got in some colonies here today, and I fed about 50 colonies. And I went through and I checked them all to make sure they were queen right, and everything was looking good. This is kind of some of the last inspections we'll be doing for the year, and this was one that I went through. I basically checked inside each colony. I broke into the middle of the nest and made sure they were queen right, made sure the pattern was good, made sure there was plenty of milk brewed in there, so they had good nutrition. And I'll say that for the last, I don't know, I'm going to say maybe a few weeks, it seems like we've had almost little to no rain, just a little bit here and there, but it's been really dry, and the temperatures were cool for a while, and then they jumped back up over the weekend while we were in Georgia. And it was actually cooler in North Florida and in Georgia than it was here. I mean, by like 15 plus degrees. It was crazy. But anyway, what I was going to say was when I was getting into some of these colonies, I was expecting them to be a little bit dry and empty, but they weren't. So I have no idea what these girls are bringing in, but things are really starting to dry up. And I saw wet nectar in there. I didn't do a shake test, but I could clearly see some wet nectar. I have no idea what they're getting, where they're bringing it back in from, but I'm absolutely amazed. So I think last week, no, not last week because I was gone. The week before, I think I fed somewhere about 220 gallons of feed, and I just mixed up this morning early. I think it was 130 gallons, I think. So I'm actually so tagging on to what you were saying there, Bill. I was very pleasantly surprised to see that these girls had a little bit of weight, and most of my double deep production colonies had the top boxes mostly full, or they kind of felt pretty heavy. So fingers crossed for me. I don't have to go absolutely nuts on, feeding, because at this point, I think I've already went through 1,000. I guess it probably would have been about 1,700 pounds of sugar.
Yep.
So anyway, it's kind of all over the place. So as Melissa and I we drove down to North Florida there near Jacksonville, and I gave a presentation to the Clay County Beekeepers Association on Monday night, and then we hung out with Dennis and Melanie Cruz for a few days, and then at their farm, and then we left there and headed to North Georgia and Gainesville for the Georgia State Beekeepers Conference, which is a very good one, by the way. They really a lot of details that they think of. So I was able to talk to a lot of speakers, and I got a few speakers signed up for me, and met some new people, which was a good thing. But what was crazy is as we were traveling back north, most things you'd see spots where you're looking along the highway easements. That's a good gauge to know how much moisture they've been getting. When I got up, it was probably, I noticed about Nashville heading north. Things looked really dry from about Nashville heading north in the highway easements all the way up through St. Louis. So, and sounds like, Bill, it's going clear up through the Midwest on up to the, the Northeast a little bit. So not sure what that looks like, long term, but
well, we're supposed to get rain tonight, but it's coming from east to west.
Oh, wow.
So we're not likely going to get any.
Nukes.
So
I went from 12.
But so far as of last weekend, not yesterday, but the weekend before, when we fed, we've used 140 gallons of syrup.
Yeah, I'm at 120, and I'm about 1,200 pounds of sugar into what I'm expecting to be about 3,700 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, what's your number, bud? I saw you madly calculating. There's a couple caveats with you that I know tweak it a little bit, but just in the
Well, I was looking at last year how many hives I had, and I increased from 12 to 16 hives.
Yeah. So last year might be a better look because
I'm looking at last year's.
Yeah.
And see, I increased those 4 hives, and some of them made me a little bit of honey. So I'm averaging, I guess, is what it amounts to.
Because Phil had in there what might be a more realistic number for me. He was saying he tries to average around $400 per colony.
I'm looking at.
It's a tough number, but I know.
I'm taking just now. Last year I sold bees. I sold equipment. So I'm not even putting that in there. I'm taking the honey.
Okay.
Taking my.
Because the nukes and everything else, if you pulled them out of those colonies made that money too, right?
Well, I had nukes where I sold the nukes and stuff like that. So I'm only doing just the honey and just the expenses all the expenditures.
Yep.
That could be, I'm coming up with like $375 a hive.
Okay.
That's not a bad number.
That's a great number, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Now I had like nuke sales. I had $1,600 worth of nuke sales,
mm-hmm.
And things like that. And then I had hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars worth of, I was getting out of the nuke business. So I had deep nukes equipment.
Yep.
So I sold that to a bunch of people. You bought 180 some frames.
Yep.
Drawn wax frames from me. Stuff like that. I mean, the numbers were a lot higher, but you can't compare it if you're looking at honey production per hive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at
my number when I do it's going to be honey plus nukes or anything else that I pulled out of them, or if I shook bees out of them or anything like that.
I mean, I could take like this year's,
and I'm just for conversation. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around my budget for next year, for what I'm going to spend, what I'm going to increase, what it's going to cost me. Is what I'm looking at. So, Tom, did you make any lids yet? I knew you made pallets. Did you make any lids?
I have not. I have been trying to get to that for the last few weeks, and I have not done that. I was thinking about that this week, what all I needed to get done. what landscaping jobs I needed to complete, as well as beekeeping tasks needed to be done. And I've got a couple days this week, besides what my boys are doing, that I have to be on a job that we're installing putting green on, actually. So I've got 3 days this week that I can work on beekeeping stuff. Today was one of them, and I was doing a lot of feeding, but that was been on my list to do, actually. I was doing some research over the weekend, and Will, I'll ask you. And so I haven't decided on the lids. I'm going to put a feed hole in there.
I'm
I
drilling
don't
mine.
know if I want to put the 70 millimeter hole for basically like a mason jar,
Yep.
or if I want to do the, I think it's an 1.5 plug. Man Lake sells a yellow plug, and I
Yep.
think it's 1.5 inches. You might be able to correct me there if I'm wrong. I'm leaning toward that. I think I don't know if I want to do the mason jar, because on these production colonies, I don't think I have any need to feed mason jars at all. I'm going to use buckets on those. So, you have any thoughts there?
Man, I struggled with that. I think you and I might have even talked about it. I struggle with building a really nice migratory cover and then drilling a hole in it.
Yeah.
But my stuff's kind of evolved a little bit. I'm going to drill them for the mason jar. As a matter of fact, I even picked up 50 Man Lake ones that a guy's drilling for me that are waxed, that are, believe it or not, wax dipped, because I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
But my ones that I'm making out of the HDO that I'm putting together,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to drill them for a mason jar. But what I am doing is I'm kind of revamping how I'm making my candy board, and my candy board's going to have 2 inches of insulation in it.
Okay.
So that'll be on over winter. That'll provide all the insulation that I'm going to put on top.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to put a vent hole in them or an upper entrance, so it's going to be a true condensing hive.
Yep.
And then I'm going to have the migratory cover sitting on top of it with a solid lid in the top of it, just closing it up.
Okay.
If a little bit of heat goes through that, if a little bit of moisture, it doesn't matter, because I'll have my candy board underneath it.
Yeah.
And it'll provide me all the flexibility, like this time of year, I can pop that mason jar out. I could put a 5-pound honey jar on it, or I could put a bucket on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at. That works for me. That I've decided. I finally broke down, and I have a plywood template that I drop on top, and I just drill down through it, and
sure,
that's going to be it.
So I'll tell you what else I'm thinking. And I was talking with a gentleman, I can't remember who it even was, honestly, just not a week and a half ago. Anyway, I can't remember. I think it was a small commercial guy. Anyway, this is my thought. I planned on just building a migratory lid. I have several sheets of HDO, and right now I think I'm leaning toward doing that yellow plug. And I think Bundy said those are a 2-inch hole. So drilling a 2-inch hole on top so I can actually bucket feed. But I also like to use the Man Lake. They're not the best. They all have their pros and cons. The Man Lake 2 on the 8-frame stuff, I think it's a 2-gallon feeder. I think it is. It's got the troughs on each side.
Yep.
I can feed a lot very quickly with that. But if I'm going to stimulative feed, I'll probably use buckets. So I might kind of use them back and forth. And then I think one other thing I decided that I'm going to do is I'm going to build a 3/4 inch rim into the migratory lid. At first, I was not going to do that because I need to be able to feed, and I don't do it very often. Maybe in the springtime, we'll potentially put a small pollen patty on. That's typically the last few years, the only time that I've used it. It's in the early spring to get them to brood quickly for me, or to help assist in that. And then also for my Apiguard treatments, and just to have a little extra room. So this is the way somebody presented to me. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it because they're going to build, burr comb up there. And what this person told me was this. They said, I can gauge the flow without even going down into the nest by popping the lid. If they're building burr comb up there, there's a flow, they're stimulated, they're wax building. He goes, sometimes they'll actually store a little bit of honey up there and or feed. And he goes, it's almost kind of like a little buffer, or like a reserve, basically. he also said sometimes they'll actually put drone comb up there. So I can actually just utilize that and then scrape it out if it's just drone comb, as like you're kind of like calling mites a little bit, you know. I realize this wouldn't be foolproof, but so that's kind of the way he presented to me. And I'm like, you know, and I like the idea of him saying, hey, you can use, if they build extra burr, come up there and store honey or nectar in it, you can use it as like a buffer as far as like, you know, maybe not having to feed right away if they're getting a little low on store. So right now, I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do 100%, but I think I'm leaning toward HDO lid, 3/4 inch shim built into it, and then the 2-inch plug on top. But I'm also going to use inside that rim, I have a bunch of the Reflectix, or the little small insulation that I'm going to put up inside there. So, and that'll probably stay in somewhat year round, I'm thinking. You know, this will be a bit of a trial and error. If there's something I see that's just a problem where I don't like, you know, I may pull it out, you know, so.
Yeah, I would definitely put, if you're going to do a 3/4 inch rim, and I'm nobody, but
Yeah.
I'm that 3/4 inch rim. If you put Reflectix up inside there, I did that for a bunch of mine with a 3/8 inch rim going around the outside, and I kind of like that. They don't burr comb that up. I'm going to tell you, I would lose my shit scraping all that burr comb on a 3/4 inch rim. Just for me.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I do like running. My covers, you know, are going to have a 1/3 of an inch rim on them. So I, you know, have that little bit of room on the top of the bars. Plus this, I feel I could slide a patty in there if I needed to.
Sure.
But yeah, I couldn't, I lose my shit when I put the ApiGuard on and I put, you know, an 1.5 inch shim on there. And then I come back in and it's, you know, you can tell if there's a flow on because you got that nice white wax and they're stuffing it full of honey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they're stuffing it full of nectar. But man, I would lose my shit with that 3/4.
Well, who knows? I think I'm going to try that. You know, I just don't want to go a bunch of different directions. I don't want to have some like this, some like that, because that is a time killer for an operation. If you're just having 3 small hives,
use the 3/4 and put 10 millimeter Reflectix in it. You're probably going to
pick up, I got you. Yeah,
you can get better Reflectix that's up to 10 millimeter stick. Now it's expensive, but that would also give you a better R value on top through winter.
Sure,
give you a lot better R value on top.
Yeah, the 10 millimeter stuff's expensive. I've gotten the 5. I don't think I ever bought the 10, but I've put the 5 on, and I really, if you're used to playing with regular Reflectix and you go to that 5 millimeter, that's nice shit.
So what is that, a 1/2 inch or 3/4?
5 millimeters is probably a solid, and I mean millimeter, but it's probably like a solid 1/4 inch. You know, maybe a little more than 1/4 of an inch is what I picture that to be. Yeah. And I wrap some hives with it, and I put some on the inside of some of my lids, and it is much nicer to work with, and they don't stick. You know, somebody had told me about that a while back. The burr comb does not stick as much, you know, to the Reflectix type material on top. So
yeah. So Brian C made a comment that Reflectix doesn't give much R value. It's more of a radiant bear that helps the rest in just the air. You know, I thought about that, and here's the thing: I've seen different information on Reflectix when I'm looking it up as far as what the R value is. Have you seen the same thing?
Yep. I've seen the same thing. Now, when you get to the high dollar Reflectix, and I don't even know that I want to call it Reflectix. I mean, it's so much more than that thin crap that I think of as Reflectix. But
yeah,
I've seen some crazy R value. I think that 10, you know, like that 10 millimeter, which is really heavy stuff, right? I mean, we know how thick a 9 millimeter bullet is, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? 9 millimeters.
Sure.
But the 10, I think some of the good stuff I saw, Tom, was maybe up to like an R10 or more. Okay. You know, and then the 5 millimeter was kind of the compromise that I bought some of that to try. And I think that had significant R value to it. So I I don't know. We could probably beat this around and get 10, 20 different answers on that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I don't know how because I do a lot with like the rigid like foam board, and I know all the foam boards are not created the same. You know,
No, they're not.
Usually that stuff that they put under roofs and stuff like that is generally a lot lower R value. I've seen, the pure styrofoam stuff has a certain R value. And then I've seen some of the stuff with the foil barrier on it might be even just a little bit higher yet,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I usually put the foil down so it reflects the heat back down into the colony.
Yeah.
So
Brian C brings up a really good, valid point. He says, I found Reflectix violates the bee space, and the hive beetles love it. So what I was doing is on my nukes, I switched from inner covers and telescoping to all migratory. And when I put Reflectix down and migratory and I put a brick on top of it, that leaves no space on top of the frames, and they'll tuck them up in there. So when you popped it up, you'll see some. So what I started doing is I put a 3/4 inch shim on top of those. It's not built in, it's something I bought. 3/4 inch shim, then Reflectix, and then that. So that allows them to be able to go up there and patrol. They'll build a little bit of burr comb on top. I think there's always some give and take with something. There's always, you do one thing and there's a trade-off here or there, and it may bother you, but I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with something that can work with me and all my little, nuances there and things that kind of bother me. But, and who knows, I may decide to do something different, but I think for right now, I want to do that 3/4 inch shim. I'll use Reflectix up in the lid, but what I might be able to do too, and just do it as a test, I could take a handful of colonies and put some of that thicker insulation up inside that 3/4 inch rim for winter, and then do some that don't, and then just see what happens,
yeah.
As far as our operation goes. And a lot's going to depend on the temperatures of the winter, what that looks like. And we all don't know what's going to happen. This last winter was brutally cold, January and February for us, which was completely not normal. But it is what it is. So technically, I guess I will be running that full condensing hive, which we're kind of already there. With our inner covers and the telescoping covers we use, we always screen with 1/8 inch hardware cloth that hold on top of those inner covers. And when we do that, I'm saying 98% of the time, the bees propolize that screen up 100%.
Yep.
Occasionally you'll see that they won't. So they actually take that ventilation out themselves. Now there is also that little notch that's in there, and I almost always turn the notch up. So if I'm screened on whichever side, doesn't matter, and they propolize it up, so there's no longer they can get through there, and I turn that notch up in the inner cover, they actually have there is no, and they propolize that down, there is no ventilation up through the top. And in the midsummer here, when I've said before, I leave that 3.5 inch reducer in my colonies from the start all the way through, and I never take them out. Those bees never unpropolize that midsummer, and they leave it alone. Like Bill said earlier, our colonies, when I was looking through them today, and you're really kind of taking, not really a deep dive because I just go down to the brood nest and kind of look a little harder, those colonies are strong. And I mean, we have a few of them that are just kind of trucking along, but I've got a little time to build them up. But overall, I am actually very happy with what I'm seeing in the colonies. Now I need to come back and start mite testing these again to see where I'm at. But so far, these brood patterns look good. The larva, it's got plenty of nutrition in there. I've seen several frames with pollen in there. So right now, I'm seeing good nutrition in there. So I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing, and I just hope that carries through.
Yeah. Just now on the Reflectix, I did a little bit of quick research here.
Okay.
If you use the double bubble Reflectix, all right, and you create an airspace in between the two layers, so you got an upper layer and a lower layer, just a single layer of Reflectix is an R1.1.
Okay.
If you use a double layer, you can almost double that R value or greater. It depends on the amount of airspace in between the two.
Yeah.
What are you seeing on the 5mm and the 10mm, Bill, for an R value?
Hang on a
Or
second.
didn't you get that far?
Well, I
didn't
do
get
know
that far.
when you're actually building, let's say, for example, when you're building, my brother-in-law is a developer. So when you're building, let's just say an apartment or a condominium complex, and you have a unit over here and a unit over here, you'll actually build, depending on the structure, and a 2x4 or 2x6 wall. You leave an airspace and you do another one on side there. Now they're backing it with like some sort of a soundboard basically, but he said you'll actually get a better or less heat or cold transfer through that, and a noise barrier by leaving that dead space inside there. So it kind of goes to what you're talking about there, Bill.
So the 5mm 1/4-inch foam core Reflectex insulation has an R value of approximately 15.67 for a single layer, while a 10mm 1/2-inch foam core version has an R value of about 15.67 for a single layer, or potentially higher if layered. So it's the same.
Yeah, it's tricky how you read that. I know it was a surprising R value if it's really true.
Yeah, if it's true.
If it's really true.
Not saying it's the gospel. It's what I'm reading right here in the quick research notes that I pulled up on it.
Yep.
And there is a chart.
So Tom, there's a big difference between a vent and them being able to go through it.
Yeah.
I run an 1/8-inch hardware cloth screen on top of a bunch of my colonies through the summer, and they will, towards the end of the year, they'll start profilizing or waxing that, and they'll just wax the whole thing shut.
Yep.
Now, that's nothing that they can go through.
Right.
Now, I had a bunch of candy boards last year. I have been making my candy boards that they have an upper entrance on them, and they've never profilized that shut. You know what I mean? They've always used it for in and out. Some colonies use that upper entrance a lot. Some of them don't. It kind of depends on the colony. But that's why I think this year I'm in a lot of screwing around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make them just a condensing. I'm not gonna give them that upper opening. I'm gonna make 100 of them like that and just see what it does this year.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea of using that 1/2-inch layer up inside that lid. And maybe I'll start to look into that a little bit once I get some of this other stuff done. I can always come back when it starts to get cold and pop those lids off and have a bunch of them cut that I can slide in there, once it starts to get chilly. So I have a little bit of time for that. I just need to get these lids built so I can get the utilization of all those two-way pallets. So, and I'm actually going to order another, I think 100 W clips to make more two-way pallets. Probably not any that I'll use this fall going into winter, but some that I'll have ready for next year, because I'll probably start to swap things over moving forward.
But Will, as far you got that, what is it, 2-inch insulation in your candy board?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm locked up here, guys, but
You're locked up.
You're locked up, but I can hear you.
What I'm getting at is no upper entrance, and you got that insulation board, and I put insulation board on top of my inner cover last year and all, and you won't have any problems with moisture or anything else. Actually, the bees will be better off.
Yeah, Tom, my normal candy board has 1 inch of insulation, and then I usually put another inch inside the tea cover or whatever cover I'm using on top to give me a net total of 2 inches. This year, with the depth of the rims that I bought that I'm going to make my candy boards out of, I can put 2 inches of hard styrofoam insulation right inside it, and then put the sugar on top of it, and then turn the whole thing upside down with the sugar down. And it just made more sense, I think, for me to make them that way this year to try them out.
Well, it's all about what works individually for you. Everybody doesn't have the same likes, desires, and even climates. For all that means. So, we all like something a little bit different. We're willing to tolerate some things, and some people aren't willing to tolerate. So.
Yep.
It's just one of those things where eventually, as you move along, you kind of start to land on certain things and find out what works well for streamlining the operation. Particularly when you start to get, I don't know at what point in time I started really paying attention. I don't know, maybe 40, 50, 60 hives. You really start to think closely about how you can save time with equipment and, save money with the equipment and operation. So by me building my own two-way pallets and migratory lids, I now cut out a bottom board. What do those run? $25 to $28, Bill?
23.
23. Okay. So it depends. The slanted ones I was originally buying were somewhere around 27 or 28. Let's see. Then you can remove the cost of an inner cover.
That's 11.
Okay. So $11. Now, you can also remove the cost of a telescoping cover.
That's
and then
26.
Of course, factor back in the cost of your building your two-way pallet as well as the migratory lid. But you really have less equipment. Maybe some people don't like that idea. They like the idea of having those inner cover and outer cover, and that's fine. I think they all have, again, their pros and cons. So I don't know. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, I mean, by eliminating that equipment and the cost of it, and then the two-way pallet, the W clips, and the migratory cover, it's almost a break even. You're saving maybe $20, but it's almost a break even. So, but if you're going to do a lot of movement with the hive, you're better off with the two-way or four-way pallets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I was building two-way pallets, Tom, I was spitballing that they were costing me about $20, $22 or $25 a piece. And then until you divide that in half, you're gaining. There is, you are gaining to the right direction. But, and you're right, it was probably around 50 that I started to really see the advantage of, kind of going to the pallets, and then you're forced to go to the migratory covers and, stuff like that.
Well, and I'll point this out too. I had a friend of mine said, "Hey," he goes, "don't even bother with the two ways." He said, "Go straight to a four way." And I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "Well, if you decide to jump on a load going to California," I'm like, "Right now, I have no aspiration to do that." And I said, "I'm not going to say never, but what I am going to say is I don't have any aspirations to do that." I said, "Right now, until I get a dedicated machine for moving, and I don't want to use a full size 8,000-pound skid steer to do that. That's just too much work. It's too much travel, too much cost, to move it around.
It's a lot to drag around.
Yeah,
I can tell you from experience.
So, my goal is to use like a Bobcat, like a mini tracker, or like an MT100 or something like that, for moving stuff around a little bit. But
I think that's all you need for moving those two ways. You could even move those two ways with these hive pallets. I mean, Charlie and I have these what are they? The hive
lifter.
Lifters that you can put pallet. Apparently, there's an accessory for putting forks on.
Yeah, you can put forks on them,
and you can move them around. But I think
you could get, Tom. You could get a set of the forks that they put on Traco to move the Jersey barriers with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just cut the top piece of it off, and that should slide in that pallet, and just use a baby Traco to move them.
Mm-hmm.
Cut down on your manpower and everything else.
Well, my goal long term would be that I don't need anybody to go help me do that. I can do that on my own.
Yeah, the mini skid steer's probably a really nice place to be, because I'm struggling with the 8,000-9,000 pound machine dragging it around, and how much of a pain in the ass it is. It'll pick up and move anything.
Yeah,
but it's a lot of weight to be dragging, and frankly, that's what made it real apparent to me. The advantage of these Hummerbees and stuff is because they weigh about 5,000 pounds. You're not dragging all that weight. around. And that's why they're so expensive, and why they're good is because they'll lift what we need them to lift, and they're easy to trailer around and move and do things with one person.
Right.
Well, and they're also 4-wheel drive.
Oh, absolutely.
They have some Chinese versions of those out there. Somebody, for whatever reason, decided to send me some. He goes, "Hey, you should try these." And I don't remember now what the cost was, like, I don't know, $20,000 or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like,
yeah, I was scared of them, Tom, and I thought, I went with the skid steer because I felt it was priced more efficiently and I could do more with it.
Yeah.
Beyond just the bees,
Sure. Well, we need that. We need that skid steer for our operations, for landscaping anyway, for doing everything from, and we have a whole bunch of attachments too. We have augers, we have brush hog, tree ripper, forks, tooth bucket, smooth bucket, what else we have in there? Well, I don't have for my full size, but a buddy of mine and me actually bought a soil conditioner or a Harley rake.
Oh,
and
my.
That goes on. It's a 36. So that goes on his mini MT100, which him and I do a lot of trading with stuff back and forth. So like week before last, I was using that, and when we were setting up to install this putting green we were doing, and I used the Harley rake, which worked perfect. I needed to go down about 4 inches, and that conditioned the soil and put it down perfect for that. So anyway, that's why I'm thinking that this machine would work well for that, because I can use it ambidextrously. I can use it for landscaping. I can use it for moving bees when I need to. So I'll be able to get a lot more value out of that one machine too. So
yeah, and there's 2-way pallets you built, you can move right with that set of forks.
Definitely.
No problem. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I'm looking for, is just streamline things, saving time elsewhere, because if you can save time, you can potentially run more colonies then.
Well, man, once you get off of bottom boards, that's a big deal. Getting off of bottom boards is a big efficiency deal, I think.
Yeah. DC, that's separate.
Are you going to move a lot of hives around, Will, or are you just thinking about when you got to move a yard or something?
Yeah, I got 50 I got to move out of a yard right now. Thank God they're all on pallets. You know what I mean? Moving them on bottom boards would suck. Well, Charlie, you know what moving them on bottom boards is like.
I know. I helped you on that night.
Yep. But picking them up with a skid steer and going 4 at a time is a whole different thing. And then before you even put them on the trailer, you stack them. You stack them too tall, and just go right to the trailer, and there's 8 colonies dropped on the deck. That was a fair amount of work, just taking those bees, Charlie, off of bottom boards and getting them onto pallets. I mean, the sting potential was high. They didn't like that at all.
Hey, Will, on your 2-way pallet, what size opening did you leave in the front of that?
I used 3/4 inch rims on that. That's when I was using 3/4, and I think I left them at 5 inches, and I leave them at that all year round. Now I will put 1/2 inch metal cloth over them for a mouse guard in the winter.
Okay. Well, I did pretty much the same thing, and I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants on what I was looking to do, and I'm like, kind of went back and forth. I made my double screen boards a lot smaller, but those are potentially smaller colonies. But on the entrance of those, I think I made them 5 or 5.5 maybe, and that is a 3/4 inch rim. And I just stuck with that because it's more standard dimensional lumber size. I thought about the 3/8, and I kind of went back and forth about it, and I'm like, well, I think I'm just going to do the 3/4, and that's kind of how I set them up.
I'm gonna do all 3/8 moving forward, but I'm gonna take, instead of making them 3/4 of an inch wide, I'm gonna make them probably a full 2x4 thickness. I'm probably gonna make all those rims, and I know that sounds funny. I'm probably gonna make all those, other than the one in the center. I'm gonna make them an inch and a half wide, or whatever standard dimensional is. That way, I can just rip it through the table saw at 3/8 of an inch, thick. Yeah. And it'll be that full width. And I'm seeing on some of the commercial ones that I bought that they did that pretty much all the time. And I think it just gives you that little bit of variance. If a box is a little tweaked, or if something's a little bent, or if something's a little bit of funny, it gives you that little extra bit. I think it's a better way to fly.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
DC, I'm not
everybody-
sure what I would do with that as far as cost, which one I'd put it under. It'd probably depend on what way made the most sense as far as costing it to which side or how I would do that. I'm not sure.
Yep.
I'd need to look into that and ask the question. That's something above my pay grade. I need to ask somebody that understands that a little better and figure out which direction that would work better at where I'd put it at.
Well, everybody, it's almost 10:15. A lot of us have to work tomorrow, especially Will.
Oh,
He's got to get up early.
4 a.m.'s coming in a hurry.
Yeah. Nancy's show tomorrow night at 7:30. And we'll see you Friday night with Charlie at 8 o'clock. So y'all have a good week, and we'll see you later. Good night.
See
Good night, everybody.
See ya.